Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Transfer Talk. I am Dia and today, as always, I'm joined by Harvey from the Red and Blue side to talk all things Palace. So, the first transfer rumour of the day is Oliver Giroud. It's the only transfer rumour. We talked about it yesterday, once we ended the show, we talked about that potentially today there might be links to a striker. Now we're talking about left back and right back the other days. And yes, it's Oliver Giroud. The reports are suggesting that Palace, West Ham, typical there, and Lyon are linked with a move to Oliver Giroud. So let's get right into it. There's lots of competition there already, as I listed West Ham and Lyon. He's 33 years old. I just don't think it makes sense for Palace to go and pursue this striker, considering that we want to lower the average age of the squad. Do we really need Giroud that much in the team?
No, we don't, mate. And you're right. It's a weird one. You know, it's almost like a bit of a broken record, this Giroud story, and same with a number of other players that we've been linked with over the years that keep cropping up every time a transfer window comes around. You're right. I think a few years ago when he was playing, when he was still in his Arsenal days on the bench and looking for a move, around that time, yeah, he would have been probably slightly old when you look at how our squad, as you mentioned, is aging, and we probably need to look at a different dynamic rather than going for an older, more experienced striker. Maybe go for a younger, hungrier striker, maybe. But back when he was at Arsenal, I thought that, he's a sort of signing there when he's looking for a move away from Arsenal for more first-team football. It would have made more sense back then, I think. He was someone who had a very good goal-scoring rate off the bench, still does, I think. Coming off the bench, his goal-per-minute ratio is fantastic in the Premier League. Definitely is one of those players that I think would fit into a Palace mentality. And by that, I mean he gives us 100%. You know that the fans would definitely back him because unlike some parts of Benteke's game, for example, and I don't like to call out Benteke all the time, but he does frustrate fans with his lack of mobility up front, and it comes across as he's not trying hard enough. That's definitely one thing you can't say about Giroud. It's the complete opposite with him. He's definitely a workhorse up front, and I think Palace fans would love that. But you're right, with the average age of the squad being so high, and we've mentioned it so many times, we sound like broken records talking about it, but it is such a big issue. Giroud, I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately. But it's still interesting to see that we're still linked with him. I don't know what... For me, I think the story itself is just a bit of waffle right now. I don't think there's much backing behind it, a lot of truth behind it. But it'll be interesting to see how it pans out, for sure.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with strikers and left back and right backs that we've been linked with, there's been multiple of them. So yesterday we talked about Nathan Ferguson and Nathaniel Klein, for instance, and then the other day, the left backs we talked about. I forgot now.
Jamal Lewis and
Jamal
Mitchell.
Lewis, Tyreek Mitchell. Yeah, so it seems like there is a backup plan there from the club. With position, because we've seen it many times before where we'll go for one player and that player wouldn't work out, then we're just left out in the blue. So it's positive to see in that aspect. But another player that we've been linked with in Chelsea is Batshuayi. So out of them two, who would you rather have at the club? I think I know your answer. And also, who would Chelsea rather sell to Palace? We talked about, you have to consider lots of factors. We talked about Giroud's age, for instance, and that's another factor to consider that Chelsea might want to get rid of. But what do you think?
I think you're going to struggle to find a Palace fan who wouldn't want Batshuayi over Giroud right now, because obviously, for the most obvious reason, we've seen him play in a red and blue shirt, and we know what he can do. We know what he maybe needs to work better on, and we know how he fits into the team. We all love him. We all loved him on that loan spell. He was very successful in his 6 months stint at Palace. And for those reasons, I think it is very hard to make a case for Giroud coming ahead of or wanting Giroud more than Batshuayi, especially because of the age. You mentioned there about Chelsea. They're two strikers that are not getting game time. They're two strikers that are definitely players that I think Lampard would prefer to move on, especially with the news about Timo Werner coming into the club or looking like that could be happening very soon. Fee agreed between the two parties. So with that, bearing that in mind, you've got to look at what's best for them. Batshuayi getting less game time than Giroud for them right now. I think Lampard likes the switch up from Tammy Abraham to a more experienced, more of a target man style striker in Giroud. He likes that different option off the bench. He might think Batshuayi is too similar in this play style to Abraham, and for that reason, he may want to get rid of or be looking to move Batshuayi on before Giroud. And if that's the case, then probably that would suit us better because we want him probably more than Giroud. I think a lot of fans would agree with me there. So it's interesting, and it's one of those stories where I think one event could happen, maybe Giroud wanting to put in a transfer request or something like that, and that could be like the catalyst for the dominoes to start falling and to see a transfer after transfer and a knock-on effect, you know. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for sure, but I think Batshuayi is definitely the one everyone wants right now.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I would rather have Batshuayi at the club because as I've said it before, not every player can fit into Roy's system. And Batshuayi, yes, he wasn't that great in terms of saying, "Oh wow, look what he's done." But he done the basics right, and he got the goals. And I think that's what you really need in Roy's system.
You could see, like, even when he wasn't at his absolute best, his movement off the ball was something I've not seen a Palace striker do in ages, you know. And there were so many times you saw some of these amazing runs he was playing, but some of the Palace players weren't on the same wavelength because they've not experienced that sort of movement up front. Obviously, Benteke, as we mentioned, not being the same sort of mobility up front. We haven't seen that sort of movement for a long time. So it's just really refreshing to see, and it opens you up to what could be if we have Batshuayi in the squad.
Exactly. But before we end it, I want to also mention that there was a report today suggesting that Chelsea want to sell Batshuayi, but it seems like he's rejected offers from West Ham, and I don't blame him for that because I don't think he wants to play in the Championship.
Yeah. There's the
thing. And then, but with regards to Palace, it seems like the wage is an issue for Palace. It seems like they can't afford it, so we may see in a couple of days. But let's see what happens with the Mamadou Sakho incident. Then he might go, and maybe that might banish the books because other people are suggesting that on social media as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the Batshuayi situation there. But leave down your comments down below. Oliver Giroud, yes or no? A 33-year-old striker, do we want him at Palace? I mean, I've criticised Cahill before for his age. I was thinking, would you rather have a centre half that old come to Palace right now? But it worked out fine for him. So Giroud might be another incident of a similar case. So leave down your comments down below. Let us know what you think. And until next time, up to Palace.